The problems facing Turkey, and they are immense, but they're fairly contained. So are we starting to see a turnaround in the Asian session today, of a recognition of that?
Yes, I think Turkey is a very small part of the index, regardless of what index you're looking at. So the good news is that the ETFs are not forced to sell down because of a decline in the Turkish market and the Turkish lira. So that's the good news. The bad news is that if Turkey is forced to close the foreign exchange window so that foreign investors cannot get out, that'll be very, very bad, and a bad example for other emerging markets if they're trying to try that going forward. As you know, in the past, during the Asian crisis, Malaysia did that, and it was very, very bad news. So this is something we have to watch very carefully. But the bottom line is that, this is bizarre politics. Erdogan and Trump are bargaining for this pastor. And, of course, Erdogan wants Trump to give up Gulen. And, this is the kind of bargaining that goes on. And I don't think Trump can give up on Brunson. And probably Erdogan is not going to give up on wanting to have Gulen back. So this is going to be a real standoff, I believe.
Mark, we're going to get a bit more on that in just a moment, but I wanted to jump in and just get you some breaking news crossing the Bloomberg. Elon Musk taking to Twitter again, despite all of his troubles as a result of his tweeting. He is naming some advisors and lawyers and signaling really that he's acting on the take private plan. This is what the tweet reads: "I'm excited to be working with Silver Lake and Goldman Sachs as financial advisors, plus Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen and Katz and Munger and Tolles and Olsen as legal advisors on this proposal to take Tesla private." So that's the latest development there, as investors really continue to try and work out, whether that tweet where he said funding has been secured was really backed up by anything. We'll get you more details as they become available. Let's get back to Mark Mobius and continue to talk about the fallout for Turkey. I'm curious as to whether you think that it's time to be opportunistic. If you take a look at the sell-off across other EMs that don't have the terrible external imbalances that Turkey has, is it time to get in, or are you cautious? Because, to be fair, even before Turkey really erupted, the fundamentals in terms of the trade war, the strong US dollar, were not favourable for that EM space.
Oh, there's no question there are opportunities in emerging markets now because of this incredible decline in the currencies. But we have to be very, very careful about which countries we want to invest in and which companies in particular. And, of course, leverage is all the story. We have to be careful not to be investing in companies that are heavily leveraged. By the way, the story about Tesla is really about the debt and about its ability to pay all of the debts it has. And with interest rates rising, you're going to have problems with many companies around the world, not only in emerging markets, but in developed markets. And that's true of the countries. Country debt with higher and higher interest rates in dollars is going to be a real problem for many of these countries.
Mark, I think that's the nub of it, isn't it? And that's one of the key systemic risks that we have from Turkey, is it not? With a lot of companies there borrowing in dollars and with a depreciation of the currency by about a half since the start of the year, could lead to some serious structural problems, not just for Turkey, but elsewhere.
Exactly. Interesting, in Turkey, the debt is, foreign debt is mostly in the hands of private companies. But, of course, these private companies have been borrowing from Turkish banks. So the Turkish banks could have a problem going forward. And that, of course, becomes a problem for the country as well. But you're seeing this around the world, a real concern about debts in many of these countries and companies. So what we have to do is now pick very carefully where we're going to be putting our money. And there's going to be tremendous opportunities.
Absolutely, and that's be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful, that old Buffett adage. You were very sanguine. We talked about a month ago about what would happen in Turkey. And tell me, are you still sanguine, or do you have now much deeper concerns?
I have much deeper concerns now because of this standoff. I didn't realize that Trump would be so tough as regards to Brunson and getting his return. Now we see a real bargaining taking place between the two leaders, and both of them are strong and are probably not willing to compromise.
Mark, there's another aspect. Has Recep Tayyip Erdogan backed himself into a corner by saying that he's not going to take a bailout internationally, and secondly, he's not going to raise interest rates?
Well, this is the problem, and it seems to me that the only opening for him would be to give up on Gulen and return the Brinson, return the pastor to the U.S. That would be the best alternative for him. And you may see that happening. There may be a face-saving effort on both Trump's part and Erdogan's part. But it remains to be seen. I can't be too optimistic, let's put it that way.